Welcome to Meet the Thought Leader with Katrina Rogers Consulting. Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Meet the Thought Leader on Thinking Cat. I'm your host, Katrina Rogers, and today we are meeting business operations and strategy expert Laura Doehle. From her Seattle office, Laura guides business owners to end the daily scramble of running their business to achieve their goals. She uses books in her practice, and today we'll talk about entrepreneurship books for women. But first, here's a quick message from our sponsor. I work daily to bring you new insights and help diverse life science entrepreneurs break through obstacles to get their medical products from bench to bedside. You can help me by subscribing to and sharing the Thinking Cat newsletter. Thanks for joining us today, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start with having you tell us about your background and what projects are exciting you the most right now?
Sure. My background is an interesting weave of experiences, predominantly in professional business or professional service firms, and really with small business owners. So I've worked for a couple that own a company. I've worked with multiple partners. I've worked with solo owners, and it's been an experience of helping them build their business, run their business, deliver services while optimizing the money that's coming in the door. And really, it always came down to the day-to-day operations and making sure things were going smoothly and successfully. And my company, the place I worked prior to starting my company, ran the day-to-day operations, and we managed to get all sorts of processes in place to streamline and work towards profitability, and really got some good stuff in place. And I realized that I was excited about doing that for a lot of businesses. So I jumped ship and started my own thing so I can work with as many small business owners as possible. Because the theme of all that is the owner tends to be scrambling or be either too stuck in the weeds to really see how the business needs to run, or the words that you picked up that I use a lot are scrambling, where it's just day-to-day fire and never really stopping to see where they're headed and how they're going. And so that is what I am passionate about, is helping those business owners take a breath and get some clarity and some calm and some confidence so that they can run their business and it's not running them. So that's kind of the long story short of how I managed to get to where I'm at today.
Well, and that's perfect. And I want to thank you for doing the hard work of helping business owners get out of working in their business long enough so that they can work on their business to have, again, this is about the dreams. None of us have a vision of, you're going to work like a slave every day of your life for the rest of your life in your business. No, you want to have all the benefits of it. So
all the benefits of it.
It's good to have somebody with good experience, but also to act as an accountability partner in that way.
Very much so. Very much so. And it's, a lot of people go into business for what the business does. They don't go into business to run a business. And they don't like teach that on the fundamentals of how to run a business. You can go get little bits and pieces, but how you as an individual run your business is not a common lesson. And so it's me coming in, and I don't have an answer, but it's helping figure out what you already know about yourself and how are you going to run this business. So, I like to say, so it doesn't kill you, because to your point, some of these, they're a slave to their business. They don't take a vacation. It's probably the number one thing I hear from business owners. I just want to take a vacation. And so it's, well, how do we need to do that? It's possible. You can take a vacation. So it is, you should be able to enjoy your life, even if you have a business.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you use books in your consulting practice?
So I'm an avid reader. I read a ton of books of all sorts, all the time. And so a lot of my reading is to expand my knowledge, to have more best practices or more ideas to share with my clients, because there's always different research coming out in different ways to do things differently. And I read a lot of books, I read a lot of magazines, I read a lot of the news, and I always take nuggets from all of it. So a lot of it is about me staying fresh and creative on how to help a business owner. And then I do recommend books when I know that it's going to be completely applicable, or not completely, there's going to be enough nuggets applicable that it's going to be worth the time that they're going to invest, because not everybody is big book readers. And I share a lot of articles that I read with my clients as well, when I know that there's a nugget that's relevant to what they're struggling with or working towards right now. So a lot of it is the the timeliness of it. And so by constantly reading things, I'm getting fresh new ideas or different perspectives or, just, and I read all sorts of different business books from marketing to DEI to negotiations. It's just
Mhm.
all of it, which is all how a business is run. So I read a ton.
Excellent. Well, I'm a big fan of that. That's my superpower is reading. So we are of like mind in that regard.
There you go. I'd read more if I had more time, right? Like it's one of those like my list is long, the stack is long, but there's only so much time in the day. But I do read something a little bit at least every day.
Awesome. Now that is awesome. So,
Mhm.
would you care to share your top three book recommendations for women entrepreneurs?
So this is really tough, Katrina, because there's so many. And then when you talk about then female entrepreneurs, it definitely shifts a little bit of the lens with which you look at it. But there's so many books that would be valuable. I think if I have to put it to three, I came up with one that's called Likeable Badass
Hmm.
by Dr. Allison. I hope I'm
Hmm.
saying that right. Negotiating While Black, which is by Damali Peterman. She's an
Hmm.
attorney.
Hmm.
And the third one is, and this one's it's a long title, so I have to read it. Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress
Hmm.
Cycle by doctors Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski. And those are like the three I have probably recommended to female entrepreneurs the most. And they're three very different books, but those would be the three I had to, as I prepped for this conversation, those are the three that I came up with.
What would you say would be like a top takeaway from each one?
So, Likable Badass, there's so many takeaways from that one. And that's how to gain status and power and get ahead as a woman. The takeaway for me on that one of the big takeaways was just about the difference in what makes a difference when you're interacting with people in the workplace. And I'll
Hmm.
use just the workplace in general, but it's everywhere. And how we get frustrated, we as women will get
Hmm.
frustrated because men get ahead, but they're not really good at the job. But
Hmm.
it's all about how they've been able to get themselves promoted, like bragging, so to speak, not by themselves, but they just convince other people to talk about them, to hype them. And women don't do that as much as
Hmm.
well. And the book digs into the science behind it and the research. And that was a really fascinating one to me was the difference in how people get others to promote them and move
Hmm.
forward in their careers. That was a huge takeaway. Um, the Negotiating While Black was fascinating, and it was written by a Black woman and really came
Hmm.
from the perspective of all of the literature out there is about doesn't bring into consideration any emotion.
Hmm.
And there is emotion in all negotiations.
Hmm.
And so while the book is written from the lens of a Black woman and what she has seen work, it is um, applicable to all of us and
Hmm.
really how to take advantage of the fact that you have emotion in the process of negotiation, how to leverage it, but then how to control it so that you can get to where you want to go in the process.
Hmm.
That was
Right.
really valuable because I have felt that in my career anytime I've been sitting at some sort of negotiation table, whether it's for just a standard agreement negotiation or something bigger like a house, there is emotion no matter how you cut it. And I can't eliminate that. Nobody can. So that one was really interesting. And then the burnout one, the secret to
Hmm.
unlocking the stress cycle, that was super fascinating to me because it does come at it from a lens of how women address it. I think there's
Hmm.
applicability to any gender in all of these books. Um, is what we can do on a daily basis to work through the stress that we're all experiencing. And
Hmm.
that stress of any sort on any day, whether it's ongoing stress or an immediate stressor. And it brings in a lot of science about how our bodies respond to stress and how we can break some of that cycle on a daily basis. I think about it
Hmm.
frequently when I get really ticked off and I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't normally do this, but I'm going for a jog at 3 in the afternoon. It's like this is my way of saying I need to stop and regroup, whether it's taking a walk with the dog or just, you know, leaving my office. And so that one was
Hmm.
really helpful to put some real actionable items like in the toolkit for how to manage that day-to-day stress because, it doesn't you can't get away. You can't get away from it, especially if you're running a business. It just doesn't,
Right.
you're going to be stressed.
You're going to be stressed. And yeah, and I will tell you that I read the third one.
Hmm.
It is part of the curriculum for the Whitworth University MBA.
Okay.
And I had a colleague who was in that program and they recommended it to me. So I would agree. What I loved about it was they talked about the science behind stress, but then they talked about, how to develop really individualized strategies for
Hmm.
managing and just diverting it, right? Knowing that it's going to arrive, but sort of handling it in a way that's productive for you as an individual.
100%. And I've gone back to that book quite frequently, just as a refresher, like when I could see that things are not going as smoothly as I would like and how I'm handling things, I'll go back to that just to remind myself, like these are simple things I can do to take back control. I think it's a very helpful guidebook. It's one of the ones like I got it from the library and enjoyed it so much and found so much value out of it that I purchased it. It was like I need to have this one on my bookshelf
On
to
the shelf.
keep
Mm-hmm.
going back to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do that too. The ones that I find really valuable, I get a copy so I can refer to them all the time. I'm
Yep.
excited by the Negotiating While Black. That just sounds fascinating. And you shared Likeable Badass with me earlier this year, and I'm about halfway through, and I do love the messages in there. I
Yes.
feel like it's a really thoughtful way of repositioning how we think about positioning ourselves, and it is definitely applicable to anyone who feels like they're part of a group that is misunderstood or
Yes.
maybe misjudged in their
Yes.
workplace or in as they try to do something
Yeah.
professionally.
I actually got that book for at Thanksgiving. I tend to do my client gifts because I'm so appreciative of clients. I send it to every one of my clients because men and women, because I
Mm-hmm.
felt there was so much value in that just a total shift in how to think about status and power for anybody, but really
Right.
for women. And I do work with a lot of women business owners, but I gave it to everybody because I feel so strongly about the need to really elevate women, and seeing some of that scientific research in there was just, I mean, I love books that can give me the science behind why things are happening or why we should try different techniques. And that
Yeah.
one stuck with me.
Well, and I feel like you could get 90% of the value if you just read that first chapter about how the four quadrants work and
Yep.
why, and
Yes.
how just positioning yourself towards that. And isn't it true that so many things in life are like this, right? You can divide it up into a couple of
Hmm.
axes that are scales. And if you just end up in that upper right quadrant or close enough to it,
Enough
you're going
to
to do
it. Yep.
so much better.
Uh-huh. And it's always interesting because there's not anything one big. It's not one of those, if you go lose 200 pounds, then it all happens. It's like if you just take these itty bitty steps, if you just do one small thing each day,
Yeah.
it can make such a huge difference. And I think that's
Right.
the case for most everything. But in the case of like, power and status, it's not about like I must dominate. It's about just continuing to whittle away at relationships and making sure people know who you are, and being genuine and
Yeah.
real about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good book. I totally fangirl over Dr. Allison Friedel, and I follow her on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, and she's got
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal posts. So I highly recommend anybody also follow her because she's constantly providing insights, and she has a newsletter, and I think she's on Substack like you as well, because that seems to be the best place to put things now. And she's just constantly putting out more information and more insights that are really fascinating. And even just today, before I got on the call with you, I was on LinkedIn and saw she posted something about how we can't say it's all women who struggle or it's
Mm-hmm.
all, BIPOC individuals. Everybody has their own challenges, and there's
Right.
like a subsegment of men and many white men who took time off to care for children or who
Mm-hmm.
require a level of flexibility because their partner job doesn't have the flexibility, and they start to get some hindrance in trying to find a new job or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all of us. Everybody's got the challenges, and
Right.
how do we get rid of some of these biases? Whether it's getting funding for women entrepreneurs or, like it's all of it. It's like why does it have to be why do we have to put people in buckets?
Yeah.
Everybody's unique, but everybody's just trying to get ahead.
Yeah, a big piece of it is really understanding that these tendencies come to us partly from evolution, right? This is partly how our
Yes.
brains were ended up being structured. So we just need to be aware of it and recognize
Yep.
that it's happening. And then when you recognize it's happening, then you can actually make a conscious choice about how you're going to proceed, right, with the information that you have. Love
Exactly.
that. Love those three recommendations. And I
Hmm.
know my viewers will love them too. Let us know, what's your top opportunity that most entrepreneurs miss? And that might be relative to the book, or it might be relative to something else you see in your consulting practice.
So I think too many entrepreneurs think they have to do it the way it's always been done. And that kind of drives me crazy because if you're starting a business, if you're building something from scratch, you get to decide how it's done. And it comes to the whole like, your business shouldn't kill you. From the beginning, you need to build it such that there is a level of sustainability in it for the business and for you. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
this is something a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about. They're not thoughtful and deliberate about it. And what do they actually want their business to look and feel like? And then to build it that way. And it'll shift and change over time, obviously. But there's so much of the Netflix, culture. Oh, we got to be like the
Mm-hmm.
Netflix culture,
Mm-hmm.
or the burn and churn of Amazon. Well, we need to build it that way, and there's always the articles out there, and go gender where it's like, how do women get ahead in Amazon and their structure, and there's mentors helping women navigate these systems, and so they can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, I'm like, stop building it for men and expecting women to accommodate. Build a system that works for everybody. So if you're starting your own business,
Mm-hmm.
build a system that works for you, build a system that works for everybody. And I think that is an opportunity a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize is they get to build their business their way, not the way someone else did it.
Somebody else.
Obviously there's some table stakes on how you have to start a business and the compliance piece of it. You can't ignore, paying people, etc. But as far as culture, as far as how you run that business, you get to do it your way. And I feel
Right.
like that is a
Mm-hmm.
huge missed opportunity for many entrepreneurs who just do it the way they've seen it done before and not take the time to plot out what do they actually want in their
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. I mean, there's some value in looking at templates or looking at what people have been
Mhm.
successful with. But if it's not, if that's not authentic for you, or if it's not working for you, I'm like, don't keep pushing that noodle. Go, just, it's worth your time and energy to try something different. So true.
Yeah.
And that's to me the beauty of owning your own business. If you miss out on the opportunity to craft something that really is authentically you, you're giving away you're giving away all the great stuff in it, right?
You're giving
Because
away
you're
the
going to
best.
have all those moments where it's like, it's all me.
It's true, right?
But
And
you
it's so stressful, right? It's a business and you're trying to build something that can sustain you, and there's always wrenches that are being thrown at you that you never even could have imagined were going to come. So it's like if you're going to have to deal with all that stress, you better put in the structures in place, whether it's your flexible schedule or having, the support you need so you're not dealing with stuff you're not capable of. Like put it in place because
yeah,
you're going to be dodging wrenches left and right as the leader of a business.
yeah. Maybe a good way to think about it is to create the structure so you can open the space for joy.
There you go. I love
Yeah.
that. Open the space for joy. Let's do more of that. I'm on board.
In All right, sounds good. Well, Laura, you've had some really great advice today. If our viewers would like to find out more about what you do, what's a good way to reach you?
My website is the best way to find me, and that's www.elevation-business.com.
Okay, perfect. And viewers will have that link in the written content that accompanies with this video, so you won't necessarily have to scribble it all down. All
Cool.
right, Laura, it's been fabulous today.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Folks, Laura,
Anytime.
you're welcome. Laura will join me on Thinking Cat Chat 1 week from Friday to answer your questions on the chat feed live. So stay tuned for that. And we'll be looking forward to seeing all of you on there. Laura, thanks again. And we'll look forward to you for more than a week from now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tips on navigating the life science industry.